Regret is a silent prison that traps a person in the echoes of their own choices. It is not loud, it does not announce itself, and it certainly does not seek an audience. Instead, it lingers in the background, whispering at the most inconvenient moments, reminding a person of what they lost, what they should have done, and what they can never undo. It is an invisible weight that follows them wherever they go, no matter how much they try to run from it. And the most fascinating part? Those who live in regret rarely admit it. They carry it silently, locking it away because confronting it means facing themselves, and that is often the hardest thing for a person to do. Most people assume that if someone regrets something, they will say it out loud. They expect an apology, a confession, a moment of acknowledgement that validates their pain. But that's not how regret works. True regret does not come with an announcement. It does not arrive with a neatly packaged apology or a declaration of remorse. Instead, it manifests in small, subtle ways. The long pauses in conversation, the way someone avoids eye contact, the hesitation before speaking your name. It shows up in their actions more than their words, in the way they watch from a distance, wondering if you've moved on, wishing they had done things differently but refusing to say it out loud. Admitting regret means acknowledging that they made a mistake, and for many that is too high a price to pay. It is easier to pretend they never cared, easier to act as if they have no feelings at all, rather than face the truth that they lost something valuable. People like to believe they are in control, that every decision they make is the right one. But regret proves otherwise. It forces them to confront the reality that their actions had consequences, that they let go of something they should have held on to, that they misjudged, underestimated, or made choices that they now wish they could reverse. And that realization, it is painful. This is why so many choose to remain silent. Instead of admitting they regret losing you, they will convince themselves that you were the problem. Instead of acknowledging their mistakes, they will rewrite the story in their minds, placing the blame elsewhere just to avoid taking responsibility. They will act indifferent, even cold, because showing emotion would mean showing weakness. And in their mind, that is the one thing they cannot afford to do. But make no mistake, regret is always there, lurking beneath the surface. It comes in waves, at random moments, sometimes years later, when they see you thriving, when they hear your name, when they scroll past an old memory, when they meet someone else who doesn't quite measure up to what they lost. It creeps in during the quiet moments, when there is no distraction, when they are forced to sit with their thoughts and reflect on the past. And in those moments, they feel it. The heavy, unshakable weight of regret pressing down on them. They will never say it, though, because saying it means admitting defeat. Saying it means opening a door they have already closed. And to them, that is scarier than anything. They would rather suffer in silence than admit that they lost something good. They would rather pretend they feel nothing than acknowledge the truth. This is the prison they have built for themselves. And the more time passes, the stronger its walls become. Regret does not need to be spoken to exist. It thrives in the unspoken words, in the glances that linger too long, in the hesitations that were never there before. It is in the way they check up on you in secret, in the way they listen for your name in conversations, in the way they try to convince themselves that they made the right choice, even when they know deep down that they didn't. It eats away at them slowly, a quiet torment that they cannot escape, no matter how much they try. Some might say time heals all wounds, but regret is the exception, because as time passes, it only grows stronger. The more they see you move forward, the more they realize what they lost. The more they watch from a distance, the more they wish they could go back. But they won't say it. They won't reach out. They won't admit they were wrong. Instead, they will bury it deep, pretending it doesn't exist, hoping it fades away. But regret does not simply disappear, it lingers. waiting for the perfect moment to remind them of everything they lost. Pride is one of the strongest forces in human nature, and it has the power to keep a person trapped in their own illusions. It is a shield, a defense mechanism that prevents someone from admitting their mistakes, even when they know deep down that they were wrong. When pride takes control, it does not allow room for humility, and without humility, regret remains locked inside, never spoken, never acknowledged. It is not that they do not feel the weight of their actions. It is that their ego refuses to let them confront it. The moment they admit regret, they have to face the reality that they made a mistake, and for many, that is a burden far heavier than the loss itself. The ego does not like to be challenged. It does not like to admit failure, and it certainly does not like to acknowledge weakness. To say, "I regret what I did," is to strip away the illusion of control and expose the truth that they were not as right as they believed, that they miscalculated, that they walked away from something they should have held on to. But instead of acknowledging that reality, the ego convinces them otherwise. It creates a new narrative. One where they did what was best for them, one where they had no choice, one where it was never their fault. It rewrites history to protect itself from the pain of regret, because accepting regret means admitting imperfection, and that is something the ego cannot tolerate. The more pride a person has, the more difficult it is for them to admit when they have made a mistake. They will justify their actions with excuses, blaming circumstances, blaming timing, even blaming you. They will convince themselves that walking away was necessary, that they had no other option, that it was not about them but about something bigger. Anything to avoid saying the simple words, "I was wrong." Because those words carry weight, and once they are spoken, there is no taking them back. It is easier to pretend they feel nothing than to confront the reality that they lost something valuable. Ego demands superiority. It thrives on control, on the belief that it always knows best. This is why those who regret their actions will often double down on them instead of admitting fault. They will act unaffected, even cold, pretending that they have no emotions tied to what happened. They will build walls instead of bridges, choosing silence over conversation, distance over reconciliation. It is not because they do not feel regret. It is because their ego will not allow them to show it. To them, admitting regret is a loss, a surrender, a moment of vulnerability that they cannot afford. So instead, they pretend. They put on a mask of indifference, hoping that if they act like they do not care long enough, maybe one day, they will actually believe it. But the ego is not just about protecting pride. It is about protecting identity. If someone has built their entire identity around being right, around making the best choices, around being in control, then admitting regret threatens that identity. It forces them to question themselves, to ask whether they truly knew what they were doing, to wonder if they let something go that they should have fought for. And that questioning is dangerous to the ego because it cracks the foundation of certainty they have built for themselves. The stronger the ego, the harder it fights to keep regret hidden, to suppress it, to deny it even exists. This is why they will never say it. Even when regret creeps into their mind late at night, even when they catch themselves wondering what could have been, their pride will not allow them to voice it. Admitting regret requires courage, and courage requires vulnerability. But vulnerability is something the ego fears more than anything else. To be vulnerable is to be open, to expose one's flaws, to accept that they are not always in control. And for someone who has spent their life holding on to their pride, that is an unbearable thought. They will convince themselves they're fine. They will tell themselves that they made the right choice, that they are better off, that they have no reason to look back. They will surround themselves with distractions, with new people, with new experiences, anything to drown out the voice in the back of their mind that whispers, "You made a mistake." But no matter how much they try to silence that voice, it never truly disappears. It lingers, waiting for the right moment to remind them of what they lost. Instead of apologizing, they will act as if nothing happened. Instead of acknowledging their regret, they will put up walls even higher than before. They will go to great lengths to maintain their pride, even if it means pretending they never cared in the first place. They may avoid places you once went together, not because they do not think about it, but because they do. They may avoid saying your name in conversations, not because it means nothing, but because it means too much. They may even act as if you never existed, not because you were unimportant, but because you were more important than they ever let themselves admit. They will see you moving forward, living your life, and instead of reaching out, they will stay silent. Not because they do not feel anything, but because admitting regret would require them to admit that their ego led them in the wrong direction. And for some, that is a truth too painful to bear. Time has a way of revealing what the mind tries to suppress. No matter how much someone tries to convince themselves that they made the right decision, no matter how much they tell themselves that they have moved on, time will eventually force them to confront the truth. At first, it might seem like everything is fine. Life continues as usual. Distractions fill the empty spaces, and they tell themselves they have no reason to look back. But time has a way of breaking down illusions. It is patient, relentless, and completely indifferent to the stories people tell themselves. It does not care how strong someone's ego is or how deeply they have buried their emotions. Given enough time, the truth always rises to the surface. In the beginning, the decision to walk away might feel justified. They might feel a sense of relief, believing that they have freed themselves from something they thought was unnecessary, difficult, or not worth the effort. They will tell themselves that they made the best choice, that they had no other option, that moving on was inevitable. But time does not ask for immediate answers. It does not demand instant clarity. Instead, it waits, silently observing as life unfolds, revealing what was once hidden. And slowly, piece by piece, reality starts to set in. At first, they might not notice it. The days pass and everything seems normal. But then, small reminders start appearing. A familiar scent in the air, a song on the radio, a random memory triggered by something completely unrelated. Suddenly, thoughts that were once buried start resurfacing. They might brush them off at first, dismiss them as nothing more than fleeting nostalgia. But time is not so easily ignored. What begins as occasional thoughts soon turns into a pattern, one that cannot be denied. They will see someone who reminds them of you, but something will be missing. They will engage in conversations that feel empty compared to the ones they had before. They will try to recreate the feelings they once had, only to realize that nothing quite compares. This is when the weight of time begins to settle in, because no matter how much they try to fill the void, they start to realize that not everything is replaceable. Not every connection can be replicated. And once that realization hits, regret is no longer just a possibility, it is inevitable. There will be moments when they want to reach out, but their pride will hold them back. They will type messages they never send, replay old conversations in their head, and wonder if things could have been different. But time does not move backward. It does not allow for do-overs or second chances on demand. It simply moves forward, watching as the consequences of past actions unfold. And for them, the worst part is not just realizing what they lost, it is realizing that they cannot go back and change it. Regret does not announce itself all at once. It creeps in slowly, disguised as curiosity at first. They might wonder how you are doing, casually checking up from a distance, scrolling through social media, or asking mutual friends about you. But what starts as curiosity soon turns into something deeper. They start comparing their current reality to the past, measuring their present against what they once had. And no matter how much they try to convince themselves that they are happy, time does not allow lies to last forever. Eventually, the truth becomes undeniable. They might distract themselves with new experiences, new people, and new routines, but time will not let them forget. It will place reminders in their path at the most unexpected moments. A passing stranger who speaks with the same tone, an inside joke that no longer holds meaning, a place they once visited that now feels empty. These small, seemingly insignificant details start accumulating, forming a picture they can no longer ignore. The realization does not come all at once, but when it does, it is overwhelming. They might not say it out loud, but inside they know. They know they took something for granted. They know they let go of something rare. They know they walked away from something they will never find again in the same way. And the hardest part is knowing that the one person who could understand is no longer there to listen. Time does not erase mistakes. It does not make regret disappear. It only amplifies it, making it clearer as the days pass. What once seemed like a simple decision now carries weight they never expected. What once felt like an easy choice now feels like a loss they cannot escape. Because no matter how much they try to convince themselves otherwise, time will always reveal the truth. And when it does, regret becomes impossible to ignore. Silence is often louder than words. It carries weight, meaning, and consequences that most people fail to realize until it is too late. When someone walks away believing they are making the right decision, they do not always expect the silence that follows to be so deafening. At first, it might seem like a relief. They might think that cutting off communication, keeping their distance, and avoiding any interaction will make things easier. They might convince themselves that silence is proof of their strength, that it is a sign they have moved on. But silence has a power that few recognize in the beginning. It does not just erase words. It forces people to confront their own thoughts. It creates a space where there are no distractions, no justifications, no outside noise to drown out what is really going on inside. When someone is used to having you in their life, they take that presence for granted. They assume that no matter what happens, you will always be there, always available, always within reach. They do not consider what it will feel like when that presence disappears completely. It is not until the silence sets in that they begin to understand the weight of what they lost. Because silence is not just an absence of words, it is the absence of connection, of familiarity, of comfort. And when someone is forced to sit in that silence without the reassurance of your presence, they begin to feel the emptiness that they once thought they could avoid. In the beginning, they might embrace the silence, believing it is a sign of freedom. They might convince themselves that this is what they wanted, that this is what they needed. But silence is patient. It does not rush. It does not force itself upon anyone. It simply exists, waiting for the moment when they realize what it truly means. At first, they will try to ignore it. They will fill their days with distractions, surrounding themselves with people, keeping busy, avoiding any moment where they are left alone with their thoughts. But no matter how much they try to escape it, silence always finds a way back. There will be nights when they reach for their phone, only to stop themselves from sending a message they know will never get a response. There will be moments when they expect to hear from you, only to be met with nothing. And as time passes, that silence will start to weigh on them more and more. It will turn into questions they cannot answer, doubts they cannot shake, and realizations they cannot ignore, because silence does not lie. It reflects back the truth they have been avoiding. They will wonder if you miss them. They will wonder if you think about them as much as they think about you. But the silence will not give them the reassurance they seek. It will not comfort them. It will not tell them what they want to hear. Instead, it will force them to sit with their own thoughts, to question their own choices. to face the reality they created. And that reality will be far lonelier than they ever anticipated. They will look at the conversations that once flowed so easily and realize that there is nothing left to say. They will think about all the times they could have reached out, but chose not to. And instead of feeling relief, they will feel the weight of their own decisions. Because silence does not just remove the past, it prevents any chance of a future. And once they understand that, the regret they once tried to suppress will become undeniable. They will start to realize that the absence of your voice is not just the absence of sound. It is the absence of comfort, understanding, and connection. They will begin to see that the silence they once thought was insignificant is now the loudest thing in their life. It will follow them everywhere, in the quiet moments when no one is around, in the pauses between conversations, in the spaces where you used to be. And no matter how much they try to ignore it, it will always be there, reminding them of what they lost. They might pretend that the silence does not affect them. They might act as if they have moved on, as if they do not notice the emptiness that lingers in the spaces where you once existed. But deep down, they know the truth. Because silence is not something that can be ignored. It is something that demands to be felt. And the longer they sit in it, the more they will realize that it is not you who is missing something, it is them. People often assume that moving on is a simple process, something that happens automatically with time. They believe that if they distract themselves enough, if they fill their days with new experiences and new people, the past will fade away on its own. But the truth is, the past never truly disappears. It lingers, waiting for moments of vulnerability, waiting for silence, waiting for reflection. No matter how much someone tries to convince themselves that they have moved on, their subconscious knows the truth. It remembers everything, even the things they try to forget. It holds on to the emotions, the regrets, the unspoken words, and the unresolved feelings. It does not let go just because they tell themselves they have. At first, it might seem like everything is going smoothly. They might believe that cutting you off, replacing you, or pretending you never mattered was the right decision. They might feel confident, even proud of their ability to move forward without hesitation. But this belief is built on a temporary foundation. It relies on distractions, on avoidance, on denial. And the problem with denial is that it only lasts for so long before reality starts creeping back in. The subconscious does not erase memories. It stores them. It keeps them tucked away, waiting for the right trigger to bring them back to the surface. And when that happens, it does not happen gradually. It happens all at once. It starts with small reminders, seemingly insignificant at first. A familiar scent, a song on the radio, a phrase spoken by a stranger. These triggers awaken something deep within them, something they thought was long gone. At first, they dismiss it as nothing more than nostalgia. But the subconscious does not stop at nostalgia. It forces them to relive emotions they thought they had buried. It is in the quiet moments when they are alone with their thoughts that the truth becomes impossible to ignore. They start replaying memories in their mind, not just the good ones, but the moments they wish they could go back and change. They think about what they said, what they didn't say, the choices they made, and the ones they regret. And the more they think about it, the more they realize that moving on was never as easy as they pretended it was. They might have convinced everyone around them that they have let go, that they feel nothing, that they do not care. But their subconscious is not fooled. It knows what they feel, even when they refuse to admit it. It recognizes the sadness in their eyes when they hear your name. It notices the hesitation in their voice when they talk about the past. It sees through the facade, through the distractions, through the false confidence. And as time passes, this internal conflict only grows stronger. They might have thought that time would heal everything, but time does not heal wounds that are ignored. It only deepens them. It makes them more apparent, more painful, more undeniable. Because the truth is, you do not just forget someone who truly mattered. You do not erase emotions simply because you want to. And no matter how much they try to suppress it, their subconscious will continue to remind them of what they lost. They might try to push the thoughts away, to replace the memories with new ones, to convince themselves that they have moved on. But deep down, they know the truth. They know that if they could go back, if they could undo certain choices, they would. They know that they made mistakes, that they took something for granted, that they let go of something they should have held on to. And this realization does not just bring regret, it brings a sense of helplessness, because now there is nothing they can do to change the past. They will try to find closure, to make sense of their emotions, to justify their decisions. But the subconscious does not operate on logic, it operates on emotion. And no matter how much they rationalize their choices, their emotions will not be silenced. They will continue to feel the loss, the emptiness, the longing for something that once was. They might never say it out loud, they might never admit it to anyone, but inside they know. They know they walked away from something rare. They know they underestimated the impact of their choices. They know that no matter how much they try to convince themselves otherwise, some people are simply unforgettable. And as time goes on, that truth will only become more evident. Regret is a silent companion that follows people long after they believe they have moved on. It does not announce itself immediately. It does not make a grand entrance or demand attention right away. Instead, it lingers in the background, waiting for the perfect moment to make its presence known. In the beginning, it is easy to ignore. It is easy to fill the space with distractions, with new experiences, with temporary replacements that create the illusion of moving forward. But regret is patient. It does not fade away just because someone chooses to look in the other direction. It waits, knowing that eventually it will have its moment. At first, everything seems fine. They convince themselves that they made the right decision, that leaving was the best choice, that they are better off now. They tell themselves that whatever they walked away from was not meant to be, that it was just another chapter in their life that had to come to an end. They carry on as if nothing has changed, as if they have successfully erased the past from their mind. And for a while, it seems to work. They feel free, unburdened, in control of their own destiny. But regret does not operate on the same timeline as the conscious mind. It does not hit when someone is surrounded by noise, by people, by distractions. It waits for the quiet moments, the moments when there is nothing left to mask the truth. It shows up in the spaces where they least expect it, in the stillness of the night, in the silence of an empty room, in the pause between conversations. It creeps in when they are alone, when there is nothing left to occupy their mind, when they are finally forced to sit with their own thoughts. At first, it starts as a whisper, a subtle feeling that something is missing. They brush it off, telling themselves that it is just a passing thought, that it does not mean anything. But the whisper grows louder over time. It turns into a nagging feeling, an unshakable weight that lingers no matter how much they try to ignore it. They start to notice little things. Songs that remind them of moments they once shared, places that no longer feel the same, familiar scents that bring back memories they thought were forgotten. They tell themselves that they should not feel this way, that they made their decision and they must stand by it. But the heart does not listen to logic. It does not care about justifications or rationalizations. It only knows what it feels. And what it feels is the absence of something that once mattered. It feels the weight of what was lost. The realization that some things cannot be replaced no matter how much time passes. They try to push it away, to bury the feeling beneath new relationships, new distractions. But regret has a way of resurfacing when they least expect it. It comes in the form of unanswered questions. What if they had handled things differently? What if they had said what they truly felt? What if they had not walked away so easily? These questions do not go away. They linger, circling in the mind, playing on repeat in the quiet hours of the night. They might try to find comfort in the belief that they were right, that the past was meant to stay in the past. But deep down, they know that there are some connections that do not just fade away. They know that some mistakes cannot be undone. And they know that no matter how much they try to convince themselves otherwise, there is a part of them that will always wonder what could have been. They will look back and realize that the things they once took for granted were actually the things they should have valued the most. The late night conversations, the way you understood them without words, the silent support that was always there. They will remember the way you made them feel, the way you brought a sense of comfort and understanding that no one else ever has. And they will understand far too late that not everyone gets a second chance. They might never admit it. They might never say the words out loud. They might carry on as if everything is fine, as if they have no regrets, as if the past is nothing more than a distant memory, but inside they will feel it. They will feel the weight of their choices, the sting of the things left unsaid, the loss of something that can never be regained. And that feeling will stay with them, a silent reminder of what was and what will never be again.